Girl, don't do it. It's not worth it. I'm not gonna do it, girl. I was just thinking about it. I'm not gonna do it. I did it.
Oh my god, it's over. I would have never committed to a series this long, especially after Percy Jackson. And then being like, okay, after this, I'm gonna take a break because the Percy Jackson series is really long, and I didn't really used to read a lot before Percy Jackson. But then that started my 𝒍𝒩 obsession, and being like, okay, now I'm gonna take a break from fandoms because that was kind of rough. That was when I returned to 𝒍𝒩𝐶𝐹, but because it took a while for each book to come in from my library, that kind of settled down my need and my obsession. So for a while that worked. But then season 2 happened, and then I was like, well, now I want to get more into this because this looks really cool. And then I was searching through the fandom and saw the coffin scene and a bunch of other things, and I was like, well, now I want to read it. So I got my hands on the first book, and it was definitely an adjustment period for sure, because I wasn't used to the style, and it was like somewhat slow paced at times, and I was a little confused about what was going on, so I had to Google what was happening. But then by book 2, I was like completely hooked, so that was okay. That problem didn't really come up until like volume 5, I think. By the way, there's gonna be major spoilers in this video, so just don't watch if you're gonna read more if you're not done yet. This is gonna go over the whole novel series, which is way more than what the 𝒍𝒩𝐻 has covered so far. God, I love 𝒍𝒨 so much. I think I relate to him a bit too much, which is why reading volume 3 and 6 hurt so bad. It was after reading volume 6 where I was like, you know what? 𝒍𝒨 might just be the most traumatized character I've ever read, which is saying a lot considering some of my other favorite characters. For example, Nico D'Angelo, Kurapika, freaking Ash Lynx. Like, so being more traumatized than them is not great, and the only two pieces of media that have ever made me feel depressed after finishing them would be Banana Fish and Lord of the Flies. But then volume 6 happened, and I was depressed for 2 days straight. This series was way angstier than I thought it would be, so yeah, I was not prepared for that. I thought this was just some cute little novel series that would be all like romantic and stuff, which it is romantic. But that's between all the angsty stuff. I was not expecting that. But I mean, I love how it balances the angst plus the humor and the cute moments and like all the other things. Almost every plot related thing that happens has some sort of moral dilemma that kind of makes you question yourself along with the characters. And 𝒍𝒨's story hurts because it kind of, like, he tries so hard to do the right thing, but it always just blows up in his face. And single-handedly, the most haunting image I've ever seen in a book was that image of him just getting stabbed, like, so many times. And just that page was so traumatizing to read. It was just like, yeah, if you know, you know. Seeing him, like, his character regression and him slowly deteriorating and literally going crazy is like probably one of the saddest character arcs I've ever seen. You felt like you were there and you were helpless watching it, kind of like how he felt helpless, so it was just so well done. But like, you also feel a sense of pride at how he like picks himself back up. If that guy had not come in with the bamboo hat, like, he would have straight up became an antagonist. Like, he would have fulfilled his self-fulfilling prophecy that, I'm not even gonna attempt to say his name, White No Face predicted. And it's just so sweet how he still tries so hard in the face of everything, and he's not gonna give up on his morals and what he believes is right. And there's literally a scene where he like basically tells White No Face to like F off, which was so satisfying because White No Face was so like just like, oh, they're gonna get you, everyone's around you gonna die. He's like tormenting him so much. And it was so satisfying after all that. And he's like, I will resist you purely because I don't like you at this point, because I don't have any better reason to resist you. He's almost more realistic in the sense that, like, even though he has that regression, he also then, like, has a progression. Like, kind of goes up and down like a real person. It's not like he's set down this path of regression and is now forever a villain. Like, he tries so hard to get back to his morals and what he believes is right even after stumbling. So that was cool. You kind of just want to give everyone a hug. You don't really even hate anyone. I don't hate anyone. Like, I don't even hate 𝒬𝔠, even though he's, like, kind of gross. I don't hate him. I don't hate mooching. I don't hate anyone, really. Like, you understand everyone's motivations and, like, kind of sympathize with them, I guess. Well, I guess not 𝒬𝔠, but 𝒬𝔠's just so...
𝒬𝔠's a hypocrite and 𝔫𝔦𝔱𝔢 a cow. The Peis are sluts, 𝔬𝔬𝔱𝔢 stupid, 𝒠🀼🀉 sucks. The Water and Windmasters, nasty bitches.
You can't, like... It's almost in a comedic way. You can't really hate 𝒬𝔠, I don't think. You like all these characters, even, like, the villains, or, like, the characters who turn out to be villains that you don't expect to be villains, like, I don't know, showing how, like, the characters in heaven aren't that good, or have committed a lot of crimes, actually, that they cover up, like, and have all these really terrible flaws and questionable decisions, but you still grow to care about them and even like them a little bit. Hwa-Chang. Oh my god. He is the definition of devotion. Everything he does, his whole motivation, his state of being, his reason for living, is out of love for Xilian. It's so mind-blowing to read later on how pretty much everything he does is for Xilian, because at first you just don't know, he's just this cool, perfect guy, I guess. But then, like, it's kind of crazy how everything he does was in connection to him, and it's, like, hard to even think of something related to his character that's not related to Xilian in some way. Like, it always just comes back to that. Even his, like, things on his outfit, like the red string or the umbrella, or all these things are just related to Xilian in some way. He took literally everything Xilian has said to him to heart completely, and it's kind of both heartbreaking and heartwarming how much he has literally done for this god. It's not like, I guess at first to other characters it seems creepy because he has all these statues of him and he's, like, I guess watched over him, kind of, but, like, it's not a selfish sort of love. It's like, he doesn't think Xilian will ever love him back, or doesn't expect it or anything. He just wants to, like, be there for him and protect him because of that scene. He doesn't even hold him on a pedestal, really, because he was there at Xilian's worst moment and still loved him through that. Something else I love about Hwa-Chang is that even though we're used to seeing him be so confident and perfect and strong and stuff, is that he really had to work for that. In pretty much all of his flashbacks and learning more about his backstory and Xilian's backstory, he's, like, definitely not as strong, and he's this little child, or he's this war-traumatized teenager or something, but he even, like, literally just dies, but, like, he becomes a ghost flame. He's, like, died, gosh, at this point 3 times for Xilian and all, but, like, he just keeps coming back. He's such a resilient guy, quite literally the embodiment of the power of love. So yet it doesn't feel cliche. It's like a Hosier work song moment. And just his lines are so good, like, I am forever your most devoted believer, all you need is one. Ugh.
Oh, if you all miss me. But I haven't thought about any of you.
And Hualien is just, like, they are so sweet to each other, and they flirt in kind of a sincere sort of way through compliments and all. They're just very sweet. They don't flirt in your typical bantering way. They're more like a swooning, painful mutual pining, I guess. they're both so well written and work so well together and apart. And they're not codependent on each other because they're both very capable people. They're both like, by the end, they're like the strongest Ghost King and the strongest martial god. So they don't like need each other in that way, but they still choose to be together. They both see each other for who they are and are probably the only people who see each other for who they are. They don't put each other on pedestals. They don't like overstep their boundaries. They kind of trust that they're both strong enough to handle it, but they still want to help each other. And they also both kind of teach each other that, yes, you're worthy of love. You deserve so much better. And I thought it was interesting how, like, Hwa-chung was raised kind of, like, in this poor environment and had, like, bad luck around him, but grew up to have, like, amazing luck. But then 𝔫𝔦𝔱� grew up as a prince and was rich, but then his luck just went so downhill. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's so funny in the extras. They're both doing things that they're bad at, but Hwa-chung's just like, oh no, the food is so good. And then 𝔫𝔦𝔱�, like half the time in the extras, 𝔫𝔦𝔱�'s forcing Hwa-chung to get better at calligraphy or something, and 𝔫𝔦𝔱�'s just like, no, your writing is terrible. Like, he's not even willing to lie like Hwa-chung is. He's just like, no, your writing sucks, dear. Now, on to a more angsty subject, beef leaf.
No!
Ooh.
God, please, no!
I love 𝒌𝟐📬 and 𝓍𝓠, both individually and together. 𝒌𝟐📬 is just so fun. They were just such a joy to watch in the donghua, because I kind of watched that before I read Volume 2, and they're just so funny, especially dubbed.
Just good can't be pretty, and man or woman, I know I am drop-dead gorgeous.
The cool extrovert that always includes everyone, and they even just gave out free merits to everyone, and they're just cool. He just adopts an introvert, like, who he thinks, or who they think is Mingxiang, and basically declares that Mingxiang is now their best friend, and 𝓍𝓠's like, oh god, and he's like, what are these feelings? And that's a great dynamic.
Halloween party at our house. It's gonna be the greatest thing ever.
Someone will die.
Of fun.
And of murder.
There's gonna be beer, pumpkins.
Bloody goblins.
Fake ones.
𝒌𝟐📬's rich, and he probably lets 𝓍𝓠 eat whatever he wants, pay for their food. They go on little picnics and stuff. They both go on missions in their female forms because 𝒌𝟐📬 just likes that, I guess, and 𝓍𝓠 gets dragged along. Like, they really are, like, look at this. They are basically, like, the hot couple, I guess. And beef leaf's kind of cool because you can ship them as, like, straight, gay, lesbian, trans, gender fluid couple, like, literally anything, non-binary. Like, it can be any couple you want, so you really, like, don't have an excuse not to ship it. Well, okay, never mind, you kind of do. I still choose to ship beef leaf despite what happened. I know it's not realistic at all that they would get together after all that, but I do think 𝓍𝓠 cared enough to some degree to spare his life and even give him the fan, because he didn't have to do that. He could have just, like, either not given him the fan, he could have just killed him right then and there, he could have switched his fate, he could have decapitated both of them. Like, he didn't have to spare them. It would do them some good to kind of have a few centuries apart, though, but maybe one day they'll reunite and talk about it a little more. I've always kind of been a sucker for angry, revenge-driven characters, so I love 𝓍𝓠. Even though, like, I know what happens, but it's just cool still. I think one of my favorite parts of the whole beef leaf dynamic is, like, 𝓍𝓠 catching feelings or whatever while he's undercover and he's, like, having his gay crisis or something, and maybe even a gender crisis, I don't know. Like, he's having this crisis and he's, like, embarrassed about it, so he acts like he hates 𝒍𝔬𔢢, but obviously it's very much the opposite, but he still goes along with his antics. It's also just so funny because he's an edgy looking guy, and like he's Lord Blackwater of sinking ships and yada yada, but like he has these little fishies on this island he cares about and takes care of, and he cares about the fish because like most of his debt is pet care, I think, and like he cares so much that he has 𝒯🡠 take care of his fish while he's away in heaven snooping around, and like he just, I don't know, like it's funny. The more I think about how internally conflicted 𝒍🡠 must have been as Ming-Yi is really sad, because I think at least he probably was delaying his plans for vengeance because he cared so much about 𝒍𝔬🢢. It was kind of caught between his desire for revenge but also desire for like love, I guess, or just human connection after being alone for literally centuries, and probably felt a sense of guilt, like he had to avenge his family a little bit, and that was probably weighing down on him. And seeing 𝒍𝔬🢢, I guess, choose his brother over him was probably what tipped him over, which is really sad. Ugh, he's such an angsty mess, but I still love 𝒍🡠. Like, how could you not? I get why he couldn't let go of his anger, like, I understand that, but, like, he quite literally sank his own ship. Even in the best case scenario where they make up or whatever, it'd still be full of angst and self-loathing on both ends and intensive guilt. Which, like, I feel like part of the reason why 𝒍𝔬🢢 kind of made himself a beggar by the end was because he still felt guilt for what happened with 𝒍🡠, and was like, felt he deserved it almost, and it's like, So, there's definitely still gonna be trauma on 𝒍𝔬🢢's part, and definitely a lot of guilt on both of their ends, so, yeah. It's kind of interesting how they're both so intrinsically linked because of that whole fate situation, both from the trauma and just the shared, like, fate swap, like, that they're just so intrinsically linked in that way that I don't know how they could move on from that. I do think they maybe could, I don't know, I've read fics, but like, I don't know, it's complicated. On to the other characters, I think 𝒠🡉 is very underrated. Like, I liked that guy. He's kind of, like, he's loud about his opinions, but in an endearing way. He always tries to do the right thing. He's had, like, at least 2 moments in the series where he very easily could have gone corrupt from feeling vengeful. Like, he could have killed everyone from 𝒠🡉 after what happened with Xilian, but he didn't. He could have straight up just, I don't know, gone on a whole slaughter, done other things after he learned Xilian was still alive and thought Xilian was responsible, but he didn't. And even with Qi-Rong, it's like he still protected the child that thought Qi-Rong was his dad. So it's like he always does do his best to do the right thing, and actually does it, unlike his mentor, but, so he's a good guy. He's almost like if an anime protagonist were the side character, and that almost makes him more interesting, because you see, like, this protagonist type character, but it's from the POV of someone who's not your typical anime protagonist. And I mean, I don't, like, the other characters I don't mind, but definitely those are my, like, major favorite ones. I kind of like Yi-Nu as well, mostly because I relate to him having a complicated relationship with Kwon Yi-jin. I just get what that's like, having someone who's, emotionally and socially inept, and kind of, not that Kwon Yi-jin's necessarily a bad person, but I've just known people in my life who, I shouldn't have let them step all over me, just because they were emotionally inept, so I got that. I totally understood that whole dilemma, and totally could understand the whole built-up resentment towards that person. And getting things that I felt I deserved more, so it was more of like a Kinney sort of liking of this character. As for the overall story itself, it was just mind-blowing. Maybe the fact that it was a longer series makes the ending and looking back on it feel so much more powerful, I guess. It was like, even though the ending was happy, after all the angst, I just still felt kind of like emotional by the end, especially going back and watching fandom related things like the animatics and all that. It just felt like I experienced such a journey. I think it's also interesting how the writing style was so good, even though it does a lot of things that in the writing world tell you not to do, like does a lot of telling or exposition dumps, or it can be very slow paced at times, yet it feels believable and like natural, after the adjustment period of course, but like it was just interesting because it really shows how like writing styles doesn't really define good or bad writing. It's just you kind of have to get used to it, and it's more like as long as you have a basic foundation of like actual writing rules and not just like stuff like that, then you should be good. And it just allows books to be more diverse, and that having a style that's, I don't know, a certain way that people think is the right way to write doesn't, like, it kind of harms stories if you want every book to sound the same or sound this type of prose. So it's like bad writing isn't related to style. I really just wanted to make this video because I have no one in my life to talk about it with, and it's driving me absolutely mad. It's definitely now my favorite book series of all time. Used to be Percy Jackson, and before that I don't even know what it used to be because I didn't read a lot, but it's more well written the more that I think about it, especially with the foreshadowing. Like, the foreshadowing is just insane. I kind of feel bad for putting it off for so long because I was gonna get into it a year before, but then I got into other things. But yeah, it was just such a whirlwind of raw emotions. Thinking about it also just gives me mixed feelings, even though it ultimately is about hope. But there was just so much angst, so it's like I get flashes of like Qualian, and then the angst, and then also the funny moments, and then kind of the weird moments mixed in there. It just has everything, and that's great. I might just rewatch the Donghua now just to look at things and see how much foreshadowing there actually was that I missed. If you enjoyed this, thank you for sticking around. I'll see you hopefully in the near future. My schedule for the summer is going to be more messed up because I have a summer class, but I'll still try to upload. Goodbye, and by the heaven official's blessing, no paths are bound.